Welcome to the Love Your Inner Athlete podcast, your go-to source for all things mental fitness in sports. Whether you're an athlete, coach, or parent, you will learn as you join us to dive into inspiring conversations with those who have worked to develop their mental fitness. You will hear from people who have put in the work as either an athlete, coach, or a parent. In each episode, we bring you discussions and expert insights on developing resilience, focus, and mindset. Discover the concepts of mental fitness and learn how to use it to create consistent, durable confidence in both sports and life. I'm your host, Hans Schulstad. Let's get started. Welcome to the Inner Athlete podcast. We're blessed and excited today to have a longtime friend, Thomas Johnson, join us today on the Inner Athlete podcast. I've known Thomas for a long time in various different roles. How long have we known each other, do you think? 10 years?
I think more. I started high school hockey coaching in 2008. I think that's the first time I met you. And then we just kept crossing paths. And then my son started playing hockey 5 years later or whatever. And 4.5 years later. And then we started spending a lot of time together.
Yeah, and your nephew and my son have played together. So we've seen each other lots of places.
For sure.
Different ways. So we're both in that kind of that Armstrong Cooper hockey community for a long time. So
that's right. And it's a great community. You get to meet good people, and it's easy to run into people at the rink for sure.
Yeah, it is. All right. So let's get started. Let's just jump right in. So you're involved in hockey in like a ton of different roles. Armstrong Cooper, the MITE director, Buffalo Youth Hockey. You're the HDC guy right there.
But I haven't been for a few years, but I'm getting back involved with them again now.
Okay. And then you're doing high performance stuff. You're coaching and GMing a team, right?
Yep.
All right.
Teams there.
Yep. So tell me a little bit about each of your roles and how each role gives you a unique perspective into mental fitness and coaching.
Sure. So I'm kind of lucky. I've kind of cobbled together a hockey career, a hockey coaching career. And if I started counting up all my jobs, I think I get to the mid-teens. It gets pretty high sometimes, but most of those are seasonal. So I'm not doing 16 jobs at once or whatever, but I got a lot going on. So the big job, the most boring job, I guess, is coaching high school hockey at Buffalo. That job kind of allows me the credibility to do a lot of other things and wear a lot of different hats. And that's pretty fun, but it's a demanding job. And I think it makes you want to be a better coach. When you're coaching high school hockey, you want to do better for your coaching staff and the kids you're working with. And I think it really forces me to evaluate and critique and analyze and reflect on hockey and our hockey program and what other people are doing, what other levels are doing, what other teams are doing. And it just makes me think about hockey and analyze hockey really, really in depth. And that's a hard job. But it's made me way better at coaching. And the best part is I'm just learning. I'm just always learning. I'm learning from coaches. And then for Armstrong Youth Hockey, I get to run mites, and that's a totally different side of things. That's obviously initiation programs. You get to have fun. You get to see the joy in the hockey. You get to do all those things. It's just a lot more fun. And the stress is just, there's no stress. I mean, there's some stress, but there's no stress, right? Like everybody's there to have fun and get better. And everybody's kind of on the same page for the most part. And then high performance, I do the spring HP program in District 5. So we have our 14s, 15s, boys and girls. And then our Tier 1 leagues, which are general manager of 6 teams. I share general manager duties with one of those teams. It's just a different animal. There are different expectations, a different purpose to the program. It's about what's best right now. It's a little bit more immediate. Yes, you're looking to develop. Yes, that's part of it. But it's right in this moment. It's a snapshot of player development. It's kind of a snapshot of what's happening. And that's just a different way to look at things too. So those are kind of my jobs. And I think it changes perspective. Like each one has its own perspective, and it makes me kind of take a holistic look at hockey. And I think I'm lucky that way.
Little follow-up question, a little off script.
Sure.
You coach with your brother and your dad.
Yes.
Tell me what that's like.
So we coach our high school, Buffalo High School, together.
Yeah.
I believe this is our 7th or 8th season, the 3 of us. Maybe it's 9th. Ooh, it's awesome. It's great. We have a lot in common, which sounds like it would be a detriment, but we also have enough autonomy between the 3 of us that we get to have debates. We get to think about things differently, and there's never any hard feelings, and nobody holds a grudge because we've been doing it for our entire lives. And the experience has been great. I mean, I've got to spend more time with my dad and my brother than most people do. And
Yeah, that's true.
there's so much value in just having that family relationship that's so tight. We vacation together. We just got back from Disney World together. And like we do everything together, and it's great. It's unique. I have friends that don't see their parents but a couple times a year because they're out of state or whatever. And like
Uh-huh.
that's not my experience. I get to see my family every day almost.
Well, that's cool. Did you feel like going to Disney made everything a small world
It
after
did.
all?
Oh man, that was a long week. I'll tell you that. That was a long week.
I bet. There's
Oh man.
nothing like Disney to disconnect you from your money either.
Oh my God. It is.
Wristbands and all that stuff.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is the opposite of a relaxing vacation too. It is go, 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 go. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and there's so much to see. Yeah.
Mm.
No, that's cool. That's a lot of fun. That's, you know what? That's a big part of, I think, coaching too, is knowing how to relax and take time and take care of yourself and definitely I mean, we've been to Disney too. Great memories made.
But
So,
you want to go back.
yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next question. We often hear the phrase finding your why in coaching. So, what's yours? And how does it help you navigate the challenges you encounter as a coach and for
Yep.
hockey, and
Yeah,
maybe as a parent too?
for sure. I think my why is pretty simple. I want to help kids embrace development and improvement and do that in a fun way. And I think if I can do that right, I think it helps teach kids to embrace hard things in life or sports or academics. And it's okay those are hard. It takes focus. It takes long-term commitment, a long-term commitment. And if you want to see the results you want, you have to be committed to it. I think that can be a really fun and rewarding process. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's a slog, but when you look back on it, it is fun and rewarding. It's a good journey. And then I like being coached. I liked coaches who were correcting me and talking to me, not demeaning, but correcting and coaching. And I think that's kind of how I did it. I do it too. So making sure that we're having that long-term process, but we're getting corrected along the way and making sure we're doing things the right way.
So when you think about all your different roles, and you've heard me talk numerous times about mental fitness, how has that discussion, and I know you've done it because you've come to me before and asked me for resources and things along the way. Like, how has that become a part of your coaching process? And what impact have you seen in your different roles with that?
So I think the first thing that kind of jumps to my mind here is that you have to understand your emotions and how to reset yourself and stay in the moment. I mean, stress and anxiety are a part of competition. Coaches and players need to have those tools to deal with it. I know I've gotten myself way better at controlling my emotions on the bench by having those regulation tools, being able to regulate myself. And I think we've come so far as a coaching staff and a program at the high school level for sure, dealing with that mental fitness and understanding how to get yourself back into the moment so you're ready for the next thing. As a high school team, we talk about it. We talk about what it looks like. We talk about some of those tools. And then when needed, which is, relatively often, we talk with individuals. We talk about guys who need, or the guys that need a little bit of guidance. We talk about some of those strategies and tools to get you through challenging moments and ready for the next thing.
So tell me, what's your favorite part about coaching high school players?
I love that 3, sometimes 4-year progress of dealing with the kids and watching them mature. And it's really a lot longer than that. Like, most of the kids we coach in high school, we've known since they were mites and squirts. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot longer than that, but especially that 3-year, 4-year development process where you get to see them succeed. You get to see them fail. You get to see them grow as people, mature as people. That's probably number one. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is just being a part of that fight, that team, that camaraderie, however you want to say it. And that, being a part of a team is fun. It's fun to go to the rink. It's fun to interact with the guys. It's fun to interact with the coaches. It's fun to interact with our opponents' coaches. Like, it's a fun thing to do.
What's your favorite part about coaching mites?
Probably rolling on the ice and laughing with them. I don't know. That's basically right. It's a reminder that hockey should be fun. It's a good kick in the butt. I have this friend, Aaron Zimmerman. He's an Armstrong Cooper guy. Yeah. And he says you have to have 2 kinds of fun almost every practice and game. You have to have competition fun and you have to have silly fun. And I think for mites and young traveling hockey players, that's exactly right. You need to be able to have a little bit of silliness and have fun. Those don't have to be 50-50, but like hockey's meant to be fun. It's meant to get kids engaged. And the pressure in mites is so low that, man, you get to have fun. It's a nice reset. I love having those weekends where a long week at the high school rink where there's stresses and stuff. And you come to the mites and have fun, roll on the ice, ask them what their favorite sandwich is. And they give you weird answers. Like, it's fun.
What's the weirdest answer you've gotten about their favorite sandwich?
Well, we usually get into a debate about what is a sandwich, but the best answer is usually ice cream sandwich. So that's my favorite answer.
Yeah. Oh, well, those are kids you don't want to cream for that, do you?
Yeah, that's right.
You think it's cool.
It is cool. That is.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
What would you say your favorite part of coaching HP is?
If we're talking the spring program here, I like being exposed and reminded and helping young top athletes. They're in that snapshot of time, they're the top athletes. They might not be forever, but I love working with them and connecting with them and seeing what they are like as people. And then, really honing in on what it takes to be really good right in this immediate window. That's really fun. But the best thing is kind of following those guys. A lot of those kids I see during the high school hockey seasons and connecting with them again, or I see them at rinks randomly, and it's fun. They say hi, they talk to me, high fives and hugs and all that stuff. It's fun just to stay connected with different hockey people. Most of them are awesome kids. Most of the parents are awesome parents. Like, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. Twofold question. Thinking about your own time as a player in high school and a youth player, how would you say the game has changed, and how would you say the mindset about the game has changed since you played?
Sure. I think some of the positives are the skill development and the skills displayed by our athletes is off the charts good. Yeah. Average hockey players can do things that only our very, very elite players could do in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. The skills, the skating is amazing. Some of it might be, we might overdo some things, but still, it's amazing what kids can do. I do think in my generation had a little bit better understanding of the game as a whole, a little bit better hockey IQ as a whole, but we definitely didn't have the skills to go along with it like they have right now. So I think that's kind of a big thing. And then you see that it's not so much specialized sports. There's still multi-sport athletes, but specialized training has really come so far. And some of it's so awesome and great. And as long as kids are able to do the other things away from the rink, I think it's great. And then, switching this conversation to mindset, I think of myself as a young youth hockey player, and I didn't have a growth mindset. I didn't have that kind of developmental long-term thinking. Carol Dweck's work was just kind of starting when I was a youth, and it really wasn't popularized, I think, until the 2000s. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Hans, but
yeah. Even late 2000s.
Yeah. And it just wasn't something that we were presented with, and those kind of tools and information and the framework to think about how you can develop just wasn't there. And I know I'm the kind of person that would have really gravitated to having just kind of that information that, yeah, you can keep developing. You might not be the best player at 12 years old, but if you keep doing the things you're doing, you might be you might pass a lot of your peers when you get to 17 and 18 when it actually matters. And I wish I would have had some more of that information. I'm just, that's just timing on that. And I think that mindset, it's influenced me so much as a coach and a parent. And I just wish I would have had access to it as a young player. The other thing I would say is that mental fitness is so important now. We talk about it openly. These things weren't talked about openly when I was a young person. We didn't talk about I'm having a tough time getting over this. I'm just fixated on this thing. I'm stuck. I'm spiraling. And there wasn't tools out there. There wasn't information out there to help you get past something. Now there's psychologists, sports psychologists in particular. There's therapy and counseling readily available. There's Instagram content, 1-minute clips that'll help you navigate those things. And it's everywhere, and it's great. And thank goodness it is, because it's made people's lives better. And I just don't feel like nobody was hiding it in the 90s and early 2000s or whatever, but it just wasn't readily available. And I think it's just come so far. It's been helpful in so many different ways.
Yeah, that mindset has definitely shifted. I've seen even in the last 5 years.
100% agree.
More so than when we were growing up, but for sure. And even the past 3 years, it's really changed. So
I think top athletes, there's Olympic athletes talking about it. LeBron James talks about it. Patrick Mahomes talks about it. I know Sidney Crosby's talked about stuff. having tools to make sure your mind and you're connected with your mind and you're staying in the moment it's excellent.
So I got a question for you. What does Simone Biles, Michael Phelps, Tom Brady, and Cale Makar all have in common?
I hope they've worked with you.
I wish.
No,
Uh, all of them have talked openly and publicly about how they've gone to sports psychologists and that it's a key part of their development as players. And the way that I look at that is they are people that are amazing but not perfect.
sure.
And I feel like that's the other thing that's changed is like we got to get over this idea that amazing means perfect. That I'm starting to see shift because those people are willing to come out and talk about those things.
Yeah, I think
So,
to have them talk about it and have the resources is light years beyond what we have.
yeah. Well, so I have a question about mites.
Sure.
Do you ever use any of the rebooting techniques with mites?
Yes and no. So yeah, actually, yes. The answer is yes. When kids are having troubles and spiraling, yes.
Yeah.
We don't have as much of it because we're not having competition that feels like there's winners and losers that often. It happens, but not that often. But there are kids that will spiral, and we can have a quick conversation with them. And I know I mentioned that we talked about sandwiches, but one of the ways to distract them is to ask them questions about like what school they go to, what grade they're in, what's their favorite sandwich, what's their favorite pizza. I know it's different than what we do with our little bit older athletes, but it does do the same thing. It kind of resets their brain into thinking about something other than they're having a tough time at this, they're failing at this, whatever. And it does help. It does help kids kind of reset and refocus and focus on something that's not so negative. And then you just give them an extra minute and they're ready to go usually.
Yeah, well, I remember coaching mites that there were a lot of challenges that way. And in general, most of the time there wasn't a lot of spiraling. I do remember a couple of kids where it happened maybe a little bit more often, but it always felt like we could get them back and refocused. And the other thing I would say is I think the emphasis on that at that age is important because that's also how you change the culture and the stigmas with it.
Oh, for sure.
So,
and just providing them tools. Like the earlier you're exposed to tools, it's good. It's a good thing.
so as a parent and as a coach, because you've seen it from multiple perspectives, what do you see as the biggest challenges for today's athletes in supporting their mental health, their mental fitness, and maybe like some of the distractions you see?
There's still some stigma around not being able to control your emotions and regulate your emotions. So sometimes some kids are more unopen to that. That can be an issue. But then as far as distractions and stuff goes, they're so readily available to disassociate when things aren't going well. You can, I'm not doing well. I don't like this. I'm going to go look at my Instagram or my Snapchat, and I'm going to get distracted and I'm going to avoid dealing with this issue or resetting myself or regulating myself. I think that's one of the issues that you can see. And then also, I think sometimes the sociability of kids gets affected when they're kind of stuck on those things. They're not moving on and disassociating from their friends and family and teammates or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're running to the internet and Instagram and whatever. Not that those things are bad. It's just, they have to be used properly.
So getting down into some ways we've worked together over the years when we were on the hockey development committee at Armstrong Cooper. Mm-hmm. How do you see the emphasis we put on culture and mental performance? How do you think that impacts the Armstrong Cooper culture?
So I think Armstrong Cooper came a long way here since I started, in just refocusing into a we over me kind of belief system. And it's not that things were broken. They just weren't good enough, and things got moving in the right direction. I think the best teams, the best age groups, the best parents, players, and coaches all feel like they're stakeholders in the whole hockey experience, the whole youth sports experience. Mm-hmm. And we kind of get them to feel like, yes, we're in this together. We all get better when we all get better. It's not only about me and my kid. It's about everyone getting better because, the better you are, the better your friend is, the better he challenges you, the more he challenges you or he or she challenges you, the better you're going to be. It's like problem solving. The better you get at problem solving because there's other people challenging you, you're going to get better at sports. You're going to get better at academics and life, whatever. And I think when you have that kind of we over me, we before me, however you want to say it, attitude, like good things can come from it, and people grow together instead of both cooperatively and in competition. So, you're growing together, but you're pushing each other. And that's where the competition comes in. I think it's come a long way there.
What's one mental fitness skill you wish you would have had when you were playing?
Well, I mentioned the growth mindset. I think that's number one. I just think, especially when I was younger, in my early teens, I think I really, really would have benefited from that. I kind of got stuck on being a smaller guy, a late bloomer, and I really could have used like a longer term outlook on things. And it just wasn't, that framework just wasn't articulated to me. I think it could have really done that. But I think, and I've kind of touched on this as well a couple of times, embracing that development's not linear and it comes in starts and stops. And then finally, like being able to handle stressful situations and reset myself, and understanding how breathing can help, resetting your mind can help. It's just those tools that we've been taught over in the last few years here that, to help you be in the moment, be ready for the next thing, the next play, the next shift, the next whatever, instead of stuck and spiraling or fixated on being angry or getting revenge or having negative thoughts, whatever the case is, just being able to reset yourself.
Is there a favorite reboot your brain technique that you like to use?
For myself, yeah, for sure. I do two different ones. I do, I think it's a marine breathing or green beret breathing. It's like box.
Yep, box breathing.
4, 4, 4, 4. Yeah. I like that. That one's big. And then I will count backwards from 200 by 5s or 7s. That helps me. And then I haven't been able to get better at this and recognize when I'm getting stressed, and I can start minding my breathing first earlier. People in out breaths, and just that helps too. So I've gotten better at even recognizing it before things have really started to unravel on me most of the time. Yeah, I think those are probably the ones I use the most. Breathing and then counting backwards from 200s.
So when you coach HP and develop the relationships with the HP kids, how do you help them with setbacks and managing the expectations that go with being a part of Minnesota Hockey's high performance program?
It's a little different than, say, our high school kids, where we get to have a consistent message for 3 years or even before that, when they're young. So it is different. You have to help kids understand that this is one snapshot of time. You have the ability and the tools to reset yourself and be ready for the next thing. And then some kids are wound pretty tight, and just helping them focus on what is next. And that this is one step in the process. I think most kids can do that. And I think just having those one-on-one discussions. And, the other thing you see at HP and stuff is you see kids from associations that you don't usually see. Mm-hmm. You don't always know what kind of mental fitness tools they're getting. Sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're not great. Sometimes they have their own way of doing things that are great. Sometimes they have nothing. Mm-hmm. So if you can kind of expose them to some of the simpler things, like, the counting backwards from 200s, like that works really well. And if you have to explain something quickly to somebody, that's about as good as it gets, because it's, it takes 10 seconds to explain. Kids do it. They feel better about themselves. They feel better. They feel more in tune with what's happening. I think that's pretty good. And then there is some pressure that comes along with that. They just have to recognize that it's only one step. And I work primarily with 14 and 15-year-olds in the high performance. And there's not a lot of college coaches coming to watch 14 and 15-year-olds outside of just familiarizing themselves with names. They're not picking kids at 14, 15. They're looking for steps in the process.
So you've seen me present at numerous coaching clinics. You actually might be one of the people that's, besides my wife and my son, that's seen me the most.
Lucky. I'm lucky.
Lucky you, right? Through Armstrong, through the coaches clinic, through Level 5, even probably we've gone back to back probably with each other at D3. Oh, well, when coaching clinics were in person, you'd have me come out. I actually remember that. I had forgotten that we had done that. So you've seen me in both informal and formal situations. What are the biggest takeaways that you have gotten, and how do you integrate it into your coaching?
I think I have two. I think the first one is that our little culture, our little community had the need for better and more support for general mental health. We needed the message that mental health issues are not a weakness, and all of us could have better tools to cope with trauma, depression, anxiety, addiction issues, whatever. It's not a weakness to need that support. And I think there's so many people that are dealing with that, especially from my recent experiences with people that have anxiety more than I've ever seen before, at least recognized it more than I've ever seen. The more tools people have, the better. And it's great to just have those conversations and let people know where they can find tools. I think that's one. Our culture just needs to have better mental health tools. And we've come so far. We still have ways to go, obviously, but we've come so far in the last, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. And then the second thing is more performance based. We've talked about it already. We've touched on it all better. We have to understand our brains and how our bodies react to stress. And then the more tools you have to help reset ourselves and our athletes, it just makes things easier. Those tools are teachable and transferable, and they work. And if you treat them like that, then it makes things easier to move on to the next thing.
Well, and I think you said early on in our conversation, one of the things that whether, it would be the answer to this question was you've also realized that you need to do stuff to keep yourself in check and calm and in control.
Yeah. And as you mature, or at least as I've matured, I think I've learned to recognize it easier. And just having those tools readily accessible makes my performance as a coach better. I know that for a fact. And
I think like the last high school coaches clinic, a month ago or so, one of the things I wanted to really drill home is that we are responsible as coaches, as adults, as parents, association leaders for creating a climate that allows kids to talk about it and be okay with it. Because I can think of players that I've worked with that play, let's say, in like high level FBS football, where they talk about how, publicly how important mental health is to them. But then I hear stories that would suggest that the way that coaching or interacting is done is inconsistent with that.
It's not easy to be consistent with those things.
It's not.
Hopefully, we have our best interests of our group and our kids and our team at heart. But we also want to win. We're competitive, and I can see where those things will get lost. I'm sure it's happened to me. I don't have an example at hand, but I'm sure I've shortchanged somebody's, what they're going through in an immediate moment.
Well, and I also think, I can think of times when I coached where there were certain kids that at times make you want to pull your hair out, and you've got to kind of figure out why that is and why you're having that reaction.
Yeah. But again, leaps and bounds compared to what it was, even when I started coaching high school hockey. So what is it, 17 years ago now? We have these conversations. There's information in our locker room for kids that need things. That didn't happen when I was growing up. It didn't happen when I first started coaching. It's come so far.
You've coached your own kids, right?
I get to.
Yeah, that's a unique perspective, especially since you've been coached by your own dad. And now you're coaching your kids. What advice would you give to parents that coach their own kids? And what did it teach you both as a coach and a parent?
Well, I'll just start by saying that some of my most fun coaching experiences has been coaching my kids.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been that way, but my best experiences have been coaching my kids. The other thing that comes along with that is I've learned this in the last couple of years, that coaching my own kids is somewhat bittersweet. I love being in the moment with them. I love being in the fight with them, as much as a coach can be in the fight with them. I love helping them develop and improve and, help them and their teammates improve. I love being a coach. So that part's great. But what I've really learned is that I love being a cheerleader and their second sports. When I'm not their coach, I love being their cheerleader. And I did not know if that was something I would like. I used to say, if I'm not coaching my kids, who's the guy showing up to coach my kids? And if you get your kids with good coaches, it is so much fun to be their cheerleader. So that's what I've learned in the last 18 months, really. It's been great. My advice to people coaching their kids, it's not novel, and it's how my parents treated me and my siblings. Both my mom and dad were coaches, and you touched on it. My dad was our hockey coach growing up, and he was a coach. He coached guys and corrected guys, and he was great for that. But then you could flip the switch so that if we didn't start the conversation in the car ride home or at the dinner table, he wasn't going to bring it up either. if we brought it up and talked to him, he was going to be direct. He was going to correct us. He's going to have an honest conversation with us. And that was great. But if we didn't bring it up, he talked to us like our dad. We talked about the rest of our day. We talked about the rest of what's going on and our responsibilities when we got home and all those things. And I'm sure he was better at than I am. I feel like I've slipped us sometimes on those things, but he did a great job of separating coach time from dad time. And I think I've gotten pretty decent at that. But the biggest thing I've learned is being a supporter is so much different and so much fun.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I don't know if we've talked about this, but you know that I have been on 2 or 3 staffs with your dad.
Yeah, I knew a couple. Yeah, I know a couple of them.
Yeah, that actually was fun. And I can remember a couple, or one of them in particular, where I really felt like he had my back in a situation that was definitely very chaotic.
He is a very classy man. Well, I'll shut him out. Bruce Johnson, my father, is a very classy man, and he treats people the way they should be treated. And he's been an advocate for people his whole life and a teacher his whole life. And he's been, obviously, I think he's turned out several good children. Hopefully I'm on that list.
Well, and I'm actually going to have him on this podcast, but actually I remember having a conversation with him once, and I was like, so like when you were a high school coach, how did you handle controversial things with parents? And he said, and I don't know if he's ever told you this, but what he said to me was, well, it actually was kind of easy because everybody was afraid of my wife.
That's right. That's right. So it was a little bit different back then. My mom was around a lot, and she, especially the groups that she grew up with and knew all the friends and family and the parents. And, she was a part of that conversation, and she made sure to insert herself so that there wasn't those conversations behind my dad's back that were getting out of control, which happens to all of us. Yeah, she has a little bit of a pit bull. It was pretty great.
Well, yeah, and your dad has coached like a lot of great players over the years.
Yeah, those guys were my heroes growing up. I mean, there's guys that the Richards brothers that made it to the NHL, and Todd Richards is still coaching in the NHL, and Dennis Vasky and Taj Melson, who played at St. Cloud State, and like those guys were my heroes growing up. It wasn't,
he coached Jordan Leopold, right, for a year.
Yep, I played with Jordan. Yep.
Oh, I didn't know you played with Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan. He was pretty good. He was pretty good. He was pretty good. He might
have been.
He was pretty good. We had that class. Those kids were really good. We had 3 absolute.
Did you ever all playing with O'Leary too?
Yep. So I'm 2 years older than them. So I never played youth hockey with them. I only played high school hockey 1 year with them, and they were all really good. I did have some good people that I played with.
Who was your goalie?
A guy named Eric Gilbertson, my senior year.
Oh.
He was the third goalie at Mankato State for several years after high school.
Cool.
Yeah, he was a very solid, very productive high school goalie.
Craig Thorpe grew up with you too, right?
Yep, he's 1 year younger than me. So we had a ton of guys that were Division III college players around my age group, and several Division I. Yeah, we were lucky.
All right. So any other parting thoughts?
I think it is a lot less frustrating for coaches to have a few tools in their toolkit than it is to let things fester and get worse and not get back to the program we wanted to do. It's okay to have stressful times. It's okay to have athletes spiraling. It's okay to have failure, but you have to have a toolkit to pull things back. I think that's one of the messages that I wish I would have received earlier in my coaching career, maybe playing career as well, probably.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is it probably took me until the last, less than 10 years for certain, to see things going bad, see those setbacks, see those things going bad as an opportunity to work on something, to recognize something, to analyze something, to solve something. I didn't have that in my mindset until probably the last, 7 or 8 or 9 years, where problems are not problems. They're just a new way to learn, a new opportunity to learn. That it took me a long time to embrace that. And I wish I would have had that tool when I was younger as well.
Oh, it sounds like you have learned how to reframe things.
Yeah, I think that took a long time. Those kind of conversations were out there more recently, or longer than I've kind of recognized that I needed to do it. And I'm glad I found them. It makes more things possible. It really does. You solve problems and you can move on.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on here. It's been a joy to have you on here. It's been a lot of fun. I knew it would be. I knew you were going to be a wealth of information because you have done so many things and been so involved in the game for so long. And like all my guests on here, you're just a good person and a good guy, and always have enjoyed having you around the rink, and always you always have been someone who's come to meetings and been there to problem solve and not to carry an agenda or anything like that. I mean, other than the agenda of making kids better. So
yeah. Just, man, there's so many places to learn. And if you're not a learner, you're just not going to be as good as you want to be at whatever you want to be good at.
yeah,
It's really that simple.
yeah.
This was fun, Hans. Thank you.
Yep. See you at the New Hope Arena or
Sure, I'll see you soon.
all right. Thanks,
Sure.
Simon. See ya.
Yeah, have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.